Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Chiranjit Mishra and today I'm here to present the news items related to news today, April 30th. There are 5 main news and 11 quick updates. And the personality in the news today is Tatya Tope. Let's quickly go through the news headlines. There are many related news, for example, 2 important surveys and 1 finding and a tweak in one of the existing rules. So let's quickly go through. One is the NSO's National Statistical Organization's health survey, especially focusing on accessibility and affordability. The second is about rules to allow higher ethanol blended fuels. As you know, it's going to hugely reduce the import bill and also it's going to be environment friendly. At the same time, it's going to boost the productivity of our Indian farmers. The third is about Women and Men in India 2025. It's a report comparing various statistics related to men and women in India released by MOSPI. The fourth is about Niti Aayog's report on effective city government. So as you can see, reports and surveys. So effective city government, because it focuses on what can be done to make Indian cities, especially million plus population cities, more livable or habitable. The last one is about Panchayat Advancement Index 2.0. So how various states have performed as regards developments or advancements of Panchayati Raj institutions in different states. Now let's go through quick updates. The first quick update is about hate speech and rumor mongering. So the Supreme Court had to say something about it, that we have adequate laws but we need enforcement. The second is related to nationally company law tribunal related delays. So especially under insolvency and bankruptcy court, there are so many pending cases related to what to be done with sick companies. Okay. Next is about a body related to entrepreneurs led by BRICS. So it has adopted a new declaration called Hyderabad Declaration. We'll go through that, especially related to promoting startups between the BRICS members. Okay, collaboration of MSMEs and startups. The fourth is about maternity leave. A verdict given by the Madras High Court that the third pregnancy should be treated like the first 2 pregnancies, okay? Because the government rules make it very tight for those women who are going to conceive for the third time. Now the next quick update is about invocation of WTO peace clause by India, so which has always been controversial, but India has this weapon as per Bali Conference 2013 that even if it exceeds what can be called trade distorting the subsidies, India can invoke WTO's peace clause. Next is about expansion of Doppler radar network related to mission MOSM. As you know, Doppler effect is related to sound waves and also electromagnetic waves, and it can be used by sending waves from radars and ultimately studying them to predict various meteorological phenomena. Next is about DRDO's Vikram VT-21 vehicle, which is for the Indian Army, the infantry section. Next is about NASM-SR missile successfully. It has been tested successfully. That means it's going to enhance the capability of Indian Navy to strike enemy targets. Next, AI model which has predicted more heat days ahead. Okay, so a very generic piece of news. And the last piece of news, the second last piece of news is very concerning. The demand from the airlines, because the ATF prices are rising and they are suffering operational losses. Okay, they have sought help from the government. Last is a platform released by SEBI to help investors make wise decisions by verifying misinformation. Okay, there are many interested trades in the capital market, so investments must be made or done safely and securely. The personality in the news today is Tatya Tope, as I mentioned in the beginning. So let's start with the first main news, which is NSO's 80th health survey, basically focusing on the affordability and accessibility of Indian healthcare system. As you know, the most important problem has been historical, which is out-of-pocket expenditure. Out-of-pocket expenditure, okay? Out-of-pocket expenditure. You may find the abbreviation OOPE in the report, okay? So it has been very concerning. Out of pocket expenditure means, as you know, everyone is prone to getting diseases, and diseases can be physically debilitating and it can be a financial burden for the entire family because you have to pay out of pocket. But due to various government schemes, the out of pocket expenditure has come down. The primary reason being the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, PMJAY, okay, which offers downtrodden families or financially not so well-doing families 5 lakh rupees per year per family, and it also includes not just primary and secondary but also tertiary healthcare. That means if, God forbid, but if somebody suffers from cancer and he is not financially well-doing, the operation can also be covered, but the maximum amount is 5 lakh rupees per year per family. Per family, okay, not for a family member. And there are other several schemes, different schemes like Pradhan Mantri Janani Suraksha Yojana to promote or encourage institutional deliveries. Okay, so because of these government schemes, there are many favorable metrics. Maternity mortality rate has come down, but again, health insurance coverage has increased because now 70 plus senior citizens, they can avail health insurance schemes. Okay, and rural India has also done really well in terms of health insurance coverage. So let's quickly go through the findings of the survey. It's not census. Okay, that means they must have taken a sample to study the population. Out of pocket expenditure is low. Over half of the hospitalization cases in public hospitals cost only about 1.1 thousand, that means 1100 rupees or 1100 rupees. Okay, half of the hospitalization cost. That means if 100 people are hospitalized in public hospitals or government hospitals, 50% of which, that means 50 of those 100 people admitted, they spend on an average 1100 rupees per year, which is not a very big amount, and that is possible because of the government schemes, primarily led by Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana under Ayushman Bharat Mission. Okay, so institutional deliveries have also shown significant increase, 95.6% in rural and 97.8% in urban. That means if 100 babies are born, closely 96% of those babies in rural areas are born in hospitals. Earlier they used to, the delivery or the parturition used to take place in the homes of women because there are taboos associated. Okay, but because of Pradhan Mantri Jan Suraksha Yojana and awareness spreading through various government agents, also government backed agents like Ashas and all that, so we have reached these numbers. India is undergoing an epidemiological transition. That is also another finding. This is not a positive point, it's something very concerning because now, because we have several schemes like universal immunization program or a vaccine led government backed scheme. Because of that, infectious diseases have come down, but there is a rise in non-communicable diseases like heart attack, diabetes. Okay, that is due to change in lifestyle. Decline in infectious diseases, but rise in non-communicable diseases. Cardiovascular means heart related, and diabetes. These are like endocrinological diseases, hormone related. Okay, health insurance coverage has expanded good, which is a good thing. 45.5% of the rural population is now health insured, and urban is 31.8%. Many people have private insurance, those who can afford, otherwise you have government insurance. Okay, so you can say the poor people are insured because of the government schemes, and the upper middle class and middle class because of the private health insurance. That section which is not properly insured is what lies in between. They cannot avail insurance, state health insurance because of the fact that they lie above the BPL line and they are financially better performing than the poor people. At the same time, they cannot afford to pay the premiums under private health insurance. Okay, that is why the number is still very low. Measures taken to improve healthcare system in India, not measures. Okay, there's a repetition. Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana provides 5 lakh annual coverage per family for poor and vulnerable groups. Okay, not just BPL families, there are other criteria also. For example, street vendors and everything, they also come under the protection shield. Government initiatives improving affordability include Amrit scheme and Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, cheap medicines implants. So generic medicines are available at very cheap cost. For example, for a normal medicine with the same chemicals in it or salts in it may cost you 100 rupees if it's branded. The same medicine will be available at say 10 to 20 rupees in Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Okay, so now medicine cost has also come down. Maternal and primary healthcare strengthened through Janani Suraksha Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan. So that is why we have reached 90 plus numbers, close to 95 in terms of institutional deliveries, and National Health Mission, free drugs and diagnostic initiatives. Okay, that means there are health wellness centers which also guide you in terms of what diagnostics you have to undergo, and you don't have to pay very high prices. So that's all about this news. Okay, there was no direct news. There was a digital mission, Ayushman Bharat digital mission, which we have already covered in the previous year questions. Okay, but no direct question on India's healthcare in the last few years. But this is important from the point of view of mains. You can incorporate good points. So if they ask you, for example, a statement may come that institutional deliveries in India is still low as compared to what was it in 1980s or 90s, it's unbelievable, wrong. Or if it's below 80%, that is also wrong. Okay, but there is a very slim chance that such statements may appear in the prelims exam. Next news, rules to allow higher ethanol blended fuels in vehicles. So you must have come across this term called flexi fuel engines. Those engines which are accustomed to using both 100% gasoline or petrol, or 100%, 85% ethanol plus 15% petrol maximum, or any ratio in between. Okay, because normally the traditional engines, they prefer or they are built for petrol, which is called gasoline also, or gas in the United States, and diesel. These are fossil fuel generated or derived fuels. Traditional combustion engines are meant for these two fuels, but now we have flexi fuel engines. Flexi fuel engines can easily detect the presence of any ratio of petrol is to ethanol or diesel is to ethanol, and accordingly it will change its engine performance. Okay, because there are two different organic compounds here. One is mixtures actually, petrol and ethanol. Ethanol is C2H5OH, but petrol is a very complex or complicated chemical. But now it can run on 100% petrol or 85:15 ratio mein, if you have 85% ethanol and 15% petrol, this is the most common ratio. Your engine can still perform equally well, or even better. Many researchers say that the engines can perform really better if you have more ethanol percentage. Although there was a concern regarding the reduction in the capability of the engines because of this Hormuz crisis, now we have to reduce our dependence on petrol and diesel or fossil fuel derived fuels. Okay, so this step is certainly going to directly impact three different sectors. One is three different areas. One is your import bill reduction, an estimated of say 1.5 lakh crore rupees was saved in the last decade, because we have already started it. Okay, in 2003 only we started our ethanol blending program, but the ethanol blending was very low, maximum E10. Then we are moving towards E20, and now E25 and everything. Gradually we are moving up. So import bill is going to reduce. Now for 100 volume, for 100 units volume, you'll have less amount of petrol and diesel. So we have to rely less upon the Middle East or any other country from which we are importing crude oil. Second is environmental sustainability. These are less polluting. Third is to boost farmers' income, because now we're going to produce ethanol from agricultural waste, which is a second generation biofuel. Okay, be it sugarcane waste or wheat waste or maize waste. Okay, now that is ultimately going to add to the income of the farmers. So three areas are directly being impacted, and there is also a domino effect. Let's quickly go through what amendments have to be made to the motor vehicle rules to allow E85, E100 ethanol fuels and B100 biodiesel. So B stands for biodiesel, E for ethanol. Okay, this is the most common ratio. E100 means no petrol, only ethanol, but this is the most common category of the fuel that we're going to use. Ethanol blending means mixing ethanol with petrol to create cleaner fuel, E10 and E20. E20 benefits better acceleration, smoother ride, and about 30% lower emissions compared to E10. Okay, E20 is better than E10 as per some reports. Okay, ethanol significantly reduces emissions. Sugarcane based ethanol जो है, that is 65%, that gives you 65% lower GHG emissions, CO2, CH4, etc. But maize based is 50%. Okay, that means sugarcane based is better. So these are very deeper level data you can memorize, but the most important thing is E85, E100 and B100 biodiesel vehicles which are going to be incorporated. This thing you have to remember. The performance of the different types of ethanols or alcohols you don't have to remember. Ethanol blending has saved about 1.08 trillion lakh crore in foreign exchange between 2014 and 24 by reducing crude oil imports. And now take into consideration the probable supply chain disruption because of the Middle East crisis, we have to adopt these things. Other advantages: helps improve energy security by reducing dependence upon imported crude oil, as I mentioned in the beginning. Promotes economic growth, crop diversification, rural income, of course, that is going to add to the income of the farmers, and fuel efficiency. Ethanol blended petrol program 2003, it was initiated in 2003. So in assertion reasoning, if the second statement is, the first statement is this new provision, we are going to focus upon E85, B100. Reason is because ethanol blended petrol program started in 2026. This would be wrong because it started long ago, 2023. Okay. Sometimes UPSC plays on these figures, numbers and years. Okay. Measures taken to encourage national policy on biofuels. So you know there are 4 stages of biofuel production. One is food crops, other is waste material, third is algae, and fourth is genetically modified. First one is your food crops, which is not good because we need food security. So we can use agricultural waste or other bio waste. Third is, this is the second level, still practical. Third is algae based, the third generation. And fourth is GMO based, genetically modified organisms. Okay. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana supports 2G ethanol projects using agricultural residues. So if question comes in mains, okay, critically examine the ethanol blending policy of India. Okay, so you can start with the Hormuz crisis. So it makes it even more urgent to introduce it, and India has already been doing it since 2003. Okay, what are the positives and the probable negatives? Negatives, there are a few negatives. There are concerns regarding engine performance. It's still there. And the other thing is biodiesel, which in winter season can become very sticky and reduce not just engine performance, but it can also affect its internal architecture. Biodiesel, it becomes very thicky and viscous during winter. Okay, so there are concerns. A question came related to green hydrogen. Consider the following statements with regard to green hydrogen. It can be used directly as a fuel for internal combustion. Not at all difficult to guess. Of course, it's correct. क्या ही गलत हो सकता है इसमें? It can be blended with natural gas and used as fuel for heat or power generation. Of course, it is blendable because it's a gas. It can mix with other gas. Okay. It can be used in hydrogen fuel cell to run vehicles. There's nothing wrong in this as well. All three are correct. Sometimes energy related or environment related questions are very easy to answer. If you see such easy to believe statements, there is, it won't be wise to skip answering such questions. Go for it. All the 3 statements are correct. There is no trap, evidently. Women and Men in India 2025, another report. In this part, we're going to compare the maternal mortality rate, it has reduced, and the employment opportunities that women in India have and men in India have, the political participation. Okay, so you can easily see that the average literacy rate percentage difference between men and women is close to 14%. Okay, but still, in the last two general elections, more women participated, a higher percentage of women participated than men, higher percentage. Okay, that means if there are 100 women, 90 participated, as compared to if there are 100 men, then only 85 participated. Okay, percentage share. So let's quickly go through this report. Again, it has been released by MOSPI. NSO, the last one, is a body which comes under MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Okay, so the sex ratio at birth improved from 904 to 917. So this is good enough for your next mains, because for next to next mains you will have census data available. Okay, and census data is always preferred to any other survey related data, because in census you're going to count each and every individual is taken into count. Survey depends upon samples. Okay, still for the next mains these numbers will do. So 904 tha 17-19 में, now it's 917. Still it's skewed. Some states have performed really well, like Arunachal Pradesh 1000 plus and Jharkhand 899, not even 900. Okay, population growth pattern shows an inverted U-shape, peaking during 1971-81 and declining afterward. This is something you have already studied in human geography. Okay, the population increase has not, the population is still increasing every year, but the growth rate has come down. Okay, this is the growth rate, years and growth rate, population growth rate. Okay, so this is the peak year. It peaked till 1971-81, and you know, during the emergency also, although the means were very forceful and scary, but still population control measures started to be taken by the government from 1970 onwards, as a result of which the growth rate came down at least. Okay, now India is the largest country in terms of population. So maternal mortality ratio declined sharply from 254 per 1 lakh live births. Okay, agar 1 lakh births are taking place, then in those 1 lakh 254 women used to die. Now the number has come down to 88. Okay, fertility trends, if you look at fertility trends, which is advisable, is 2.1. Okay, replaceable rate. The rural area has already attained this 2.1 as per the survey. Let's see what the census says. Urban is 1.5. That means urban India is growing at a very slow pace as compared to rural India. Literacy gap also persists between males and females. Okay, so now we're comparing males and females. At the same time, there are other metrics also, we cannot ignore them. That is why the report also shows these findings. Male literacy is 84.7, whereas female is 70%, and Indian average as per the last census is slightly above 70%. Okay, and the female literacy rate is very low as per 2011 census. So there is a gap of 14.4% as per this survey. Education participation improving. The female gross enrollment ratio has been higher than male. So gross enrollment ratio is very critical. Everyone thinks that they know what the metrics, this metric means, but you have to be very careful. Gross enrollment ratio is always calculated at different levels: primary, secondary, and sometimes secondary is secondary and higher secondary. Okay, and there is also primary education or higher education, different criteria. So whatever level you choose, you have to carefully choose the denominator and the numerator. Okay, primary education is something we're targeting 100% by 2030 as per the national education policy, and in secondary education, higher education, we are aiming at 50% by 2035. These are our target. Okay, so gross enrollment ratio means number of people studying in a particular, gross enrollment ratio for a particular level, say primary level. That means number of individuals in that primary level divided by number of individuals that should be under a particular age group. Primary education के लिए से we can say 14 years or below 14 years. Okay, 8th standard तक या 7th standard तक, lower primary and upper primary. Okay, it's a classification. So age group should be 14 years. So number of individuals under 14 years, and here in the numerator you'll have all those people who are studying in class 8. They may be 14 years old, below that or above that. Some people, they skip some classes due to personal problems or family related problems, and they join later. You have to take that number in numerator, and the denominator is already specified. Okay, the denominator is all about those people who are below the age of 14 years, and the numerator can be bigger than denominator. Why? Because some people may be older than the other students in the same class. Okay, they must have taken some time, they must have got demoted, okay, during their academic trajectory. So that is why the numerator can sometimes exceed 100 also. I mean, the percentage can sometimes exceed 100 also. Why? There may be 110 students who are at the upper primary level, but the age group says 100 people. 10 people joined at a late stage because they skipped schooling. There was some problem, that's why they could not complete their school education. Okay, that is why they joined later, and the figure rose into 100. So the percentage would be 110. I hope you understood. The main point is the numerator can be easily greater than the denominator. Okay, because denominator is specified, numerator is not. Now let's look at the economic participation. Worker population ratio is very high in the case of males. If there are 100 male people in an economy, out of that 76 males are employed or working. Similarly, if there are 100 females in an economy, less than 40 females are employed or working. That is what the ratios say. Okay, female labor force participation increased to 45.9% in rural areas. Labor force participation rate is also calculated with respect to the total population of a country. Okay, in India, at least we say कि 100 अगर हैं एक population में, how many of the total population is working or willing to work? That is what this figure says. Labor force participation rate. They may be unemployed, but they're still seeking to get employed. Political participation. Let's compare men and women. Here females have done better than males. Female voter turnout exceeded male turnout in 2019. That doesn't mean more females voted than males. That doesn't mean more females voted than males. है ना? ये नहीं है. But whatever number of females are there, the percentage share was higher than that of males. Let's say 100 female voters are there. Out of that, 90 females voted. And there are 200 males. Okay. And the voting was how much? Say 160. The absolute numbers, if you compare, you can see number of males is higher than number of females. But look at the percentage. 90 by 100 is 90%, while 160 by 200 is 80%. Okay. Representation in governance still low. Women form 13.65% of the total MPs and hold less than 10% of ministerial posts. So look at the electorate. Look at the participation of women when it comes to voting. It's very high, but representation of women is very low. Okay, but we have already enacted a bill which is called Nari Shakti Vindan Adhiniyam in 2023. Okay, we're looking forward to its enforcement. Next is Niti Aayog report on effective city government. This report is trying to be futuristic by suggesting measures to make the million plus cities more livable. Okay, because as you know, urban India is expanding, but there are many gaps. Okay, there is a supply and demand gap. Look at the urban infrastructure. The cities are congested. There is traffic jam. Okay, there is poor building plans, or building code is not followed. Okay, and apart from that, there is a rise in crimes, social inequality. Okay, so these are the areas we're going to focus upon. So Niti Aayog report on effective city government suggests measures that can be taken into consideration for making urbanization sustainable. The report focuses on improving governance in India's 47 million plus cities. Start not just mega cities like Delhi, Bombay, Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, Madras, but also Ahmedabad and say Patna, most of the capital cities. Okay. So the 47 million plus cities which house one third of the total urban population and contribute 60% of the total GDP. Okay. One third of the total urban population. Okay. They are in these 47 million plus cities. What are the problems that these cities face? Starting from infrastructure gaps, as I said, livable places, roads, okay, state highways or district highways, main roads, poor services, water and sanitation, housing shortages. Just look at there is a lack of apartments, or even if apartments are there, societies are there, they don't have basic amenities or those amenities which are essential for the growth of a child. Okay, very congested. Mobility problems, metro connectivity or bus stands are far away from the residential areas. Okay, sometimes there are slums which are absolutely unplanned. Environmental stress, rising pollution, okay, water pollution, soil pollution, air pollution, and social inequality. Okay, so as you know that the living standards of an urban poor is worse than that of a rural poor. If you compare the living standards of an urban poor, this is not as per this report, is worse than that of a rural poor. And the primary reason is the lack of availability of basic materials or amenities like clean air, clean water. At least in villages and rural areas, the basic amenities are still available. Okay. And there are also many new metrics coming to study the psychology of an urban individual. Okay. Because psychological stress is an emerging problem in cities due to isolation. So limited devolution of powers, and what can the cities do? And even if we have laws, why the cities are not doing well? Because in India, city governance is in a way, oh well, one can be easily critical. Because you must have come across this term called mayor. एक mayor होता है एक city का. In New York or other megacities, if you look at the world, the mayor election matters a lot. But here in India, you have such offices, but it's not very popular. Why? Because local governance comes under the state list. Local governance is a part of the state list, be it urban or rural. Urban ho ya rural ho. And the state government is slightly hesitant to devolve its power to the tier 3 level. Okay, that is why despite having good laws, this urban local bodies do not have adequate power. Still, if you go to a megacity, the most important person would be a government servant called municipal commissioner, not popularly elected. At the same time, a mayor, some cities have, many cities have, although popularly elected, does not have that much power. So if popularly elected people don't that much power, that means those who are held accountable to public lack power. How can you expect Indian cities to grow? Okay, there's a lack of devolution of powers. This is the primary reason why city governance is failing in most of the Indian cities. City governments control only about 4 out of the 18 functions assigned under 74th Constitutional Amendment. There are 2 schedules which are added in the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendments. Schedule 11, that was for Panchayat Raj institutions, and Schedule 12 for urban local bodies. So out of those many subjects which are present, only 4 can be controlled by the urban local bodies. They don't have revenue generating powers. How will they ensure steady revenue to maintain cities and towns when they don't have that much money? Okay, so they resort to a few taxes like property tax or parking fee or some other fees. These are the sole avenues to earn money. That is why the report says some measures can be taken. The urban local bodies can go for bonds, okay, taking money from the public and then giving the money back once they start to make profit. Fragmented, they can also invest in other areas. Fragmented governance structure, lack of clear roles between elected representatives and officials, mayors lack real authority. I mentioned this already. Okay. This is not to criticize the post of municipal commissioner, but Popularly elected leaders, they are more accountable because they have the fear. Challenges faced in city governance: weak financial capacity, low own revenue, dependence on grants as per the State Finance Commission or the Central Finance Commission or the Finance Commission, poor implementation of State Finance Commission recommendations. Okay, so legal provisions are there in plenty, but enforcement is still lacking, which is why there are many problems still existing in India at the rural level, urban level, city level, village level. Poor service delivery. Urban local bodies have limited control over key sectors like transport, urban planning, water, and sanitation. Some municipal corporations are doing really well. They started, taking public money by getting money, sourcing money from the public by issuing bonds, like Bangalore Municipal Corporation or Brihan Mumbai. They're doing really well, but others can follow suit. Administrative capacity issues like staff shortages, reliance on deputation, frequent transfers, and lack of proper training. Okay. Again, even if there are government offices, there are these challenges. Key reforms: strong leadership, directly elected mayors with fixed tenure and executive powers. Improve coordination, bring key services under city governments and integrate fragmented agencies. These are the recommendations given by the Niti Aayog report. Strengthen finances and legal framework. So these are not new problems. You have already come across these problems. So here is a question for you, not a previous year question. Never, the UPSC has not asked any question in prelims related to urban local bodies, but which of the items given above has been provided under the 12th schedule of the Indian Constitution? There are 4 items: fire services, roads, bridges, urban forestry, management of railway stations. You can also share your answers here in the comment. Okay, it's very easy, as you know. First try to answer, then I'll tell you what the correct answer is. It's very easy to eliminate that one single option, which is management of railway stations. This comes under the purview of central government, and local governance can be involved in everything that comes under the state list maximum. Okay, so if you eliminate 4, all other things can be managed: roads and bridges, urban forestry, this name is very revealing, and fire services. So 2 options could have been eliminated. The last main news is about Panchayat Advancement Index, PAI 2.0, released by another ministry, Ministry of Panchayat Raj. So it took into consideration several parameters or indicators, and on the basis of how each state performed, it ranked the states. Okay, and not the states, but the various Panchayati Raj, various panchayats, gram panchayats that come under that particular state. And I think Tripura is the best performing state because most of its gram panchayats have done well. So let's go through the findings. PAI is released by the Ministry of Panchayat Raj. This can be a probable question in the prelims. Ki Niti Aayog, Panchayat Raj, Rural Development, or some other organizations. It's Ministry of Panchayat Raj. The name is very revealing. There's no trick or trap. Panchayats are categorized into 5 performance groups from 0 to 100. Achiever, front runner, performer, aspirant, and beginner. No gram panchayat performed this well. Most of them which performed well fell into these 2 categories: front runner and performer. Okay, no gram panchayat was an achiever. So that indicates significant scope for improvement. Tripura emerged as the top performing state, with around 80% of its nearly 1200 panchayats in the front runner category. Okay, and other states which performed good or well are Kerala, Odisha, and the laggards were Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, and Punjab. The index is based on the localization of SDGs. So India is strictly following the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, by coming up with its own domestic schemes and rules. Okay, because we have to meet the targets by 2030. So that's all about the index. You don't need to memorize anything. One fact is very important, that not a single state attained the achiever status, not a single gram panchayat, and the top performing state was Tripura. For prelims, just remember the name of the body. Personality in the news is Tatya Tope. His real name was Ramchandra Pandurang Tope. So Tatya means, it's a name given out of fond or love, which is called father-like. So he was a father-like. Tope means military general. So father like military general, he was given that name very fondly by his followers. And he was born in 1814 and passed away in 1859. He played a very important role in the 1857 revolt, or some people describe it as the first war of independence, and many other question it. But still his role cannot be understated. He played a very key role in supporting two other important leaders in the movement, Jhansi ki Rani, Rani Lakshmibai, and your Nana Sahib. So ultimately, he was betrayed by one of his fellow leaders, and that's how he got to, the Britishers got to know about his location, and he was hanged in 1859. Okay. In Shivpuri, which is in Madhya Pradesh, if I'm not wrong. The next is again something that Supreme Court has intervened in, and it took sumo to cognizance. It has that power. Okay, if it feels that there is a legislative gap or lack of adequate effort, then Supreme Court can intervene. Okay, and in this case it is National Company Law Tribunal, a body which falls under Companies Act 2013, and it has the power to serve as the adjudicating authority under IBC code, or IB code, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. Any companies that become sick, non-performing, or is undergoing losses is called insolvent. And bankruptcy is when court declares that the company is unable to perform its normal day-to-day operations and cannot pay back the loan it has taken. So this legal status is called bankruptcy. Insolvency means it's a term that can be used in general, loss making. And whenever a company is loss making or stops making profit, the lenders start to face the trouble or the real hit, because they are not going to get back their money. The employees stop getting their payment. Okay, and ultimately a body has to be constituted which will decide what should be the future of the company. If it's irreversible, then the company's assets have to be sold or liquidated, so that whatever money is obtained from that, it can be used to pay back the employees, the lenders. Okay, so now there is a legal procedure for that, and the set deadline was to decide upon the future of a company 330 days maximum, or the first deadline is that of 180 days. The moment an application is filed by the lender who thinks that the company is not going to pay back its money, or the company itself, the moment an application is filed, the entire procedure has to be completed within 180 days, or maximum deadline of 330 days, using other, there are other critical parts, for example, related to delays in setting up the right committee. So whatever delays are there, the maximum time period is 330, and if possible 180 days. But some cases are 4 year long. That means 4 into 365, you can say close to 1600 days. Okay, and what are the challenges or the reasons behind that? Lack of adequate staff. So IBC mandate is that resolution ideally within 330 days or 180 days. Before that, this is the final deadline. But member shortage in NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, 63 sanctioned versus 54 working. What are the causes? Infrastructure gaps, staff shortage, procedural delays, and many of the subcommittees are also working, the related courts, they're working half a day. So you have so many cases, and if you're not giving you full time, then how can you solve or resolve the issues? Okay, that is why the Supreme Court had to intervene. So here you have to remember NCLT, which comes under Companies Act 2013, but serves as an adjudicative or adjudicating body under IBC 2016. Okay, and the two deadlines you have to remember, one is 180 days, that is the first deadline, and if not 180, there are procedural delays or delays related to setting up the right committee, then 330, and then you also can challenge the verdict. Okay, everything included 330 days. Next is BRICS Entrepreneurs Alliance Global Forum. Okay, I think it was formed last year in Brazil when there was a BRICS summit of the business leaders, and this year it took place in Hyderabad. So Hyderabad Declaration was adopted. A question may come that Hyderabad Declaration related to BRICS is associated with which of the following? That is related to promoting startup collaboration and MSME integration. That's it. और कुछ है नहीं इसमें. Hyderabad Declaration promoting startup collaboration and MSME integration. Okay. India invoked WTO peace clause for fiscal year 25. That means 24 April से लेकर 31st March 2025 तक का. Okay. And this is a very interesting piece of news, very important for UPSC aspirants also. The tussle between the developed world and the developing world. Every time you invoke a peace clause, that means you are telling the WTO कि I cannot be sued by other nations for what I did. Okay, peace clause invoking मतलब यही होता है in simple words. If India has invoked peace clause, that means India wants to say, India is telling the WTO that I cannot be sued. There can be no legal case on me. Because of what? We'll discuss that. Now see, free flow of trade, goods and services is the aim of the WTO. Between developing countries, between developing, developed or developed. Okay. Now that is why many countries create set rules. If you're going to give subsidies to your farmers, okay, there is no level playing field. They'll be able to produce grains at a very cheaper cost and they'll be at an advantage as compared to other farmers. That's why the WTO has 3 different boxes. Green box, it contains those subsidies which is not trade distorting, which does not create or disturb the level playing field. Then there is amber box. This is where the Indian subsidies are categorized under. Those subsidies like input subsidies, fertilizer, insecticide, pesticide or other farm input, they can create or disrupt the level playing field. So this is the most problematic box, and Indian subsidies related to agricultural inputs fall under this box. And there is blue box which also includes allowed subsidies. So this is the most problematic box. It says that developing countries like India can give subsidies up to 10% of the total agricultural production. Agar India ka agricultural production's value is say 1 lakh, this is hypothetical, okay, much more than that, 1 lakh rupees, then India can give a subsidy of maximum 10,000 rupees. On the other hand, the US and the developed world can give subsidy of say 5,000 rupees, 5%. But India is saying that this 10% rule is based on 1986 to 88 base price. Now just imagine, this is such an unfair provision or rule that everything has to be calculated at the base, taking into consideration this as the benchmark. So the base prices are nearly 30 years old. Now you can imagine the degree of inflation. So India wants the year to be revised. Okay, so that is why there was this peace clause at the Bali conference that okay, you can, sometimes you have to exceed the margin 10%. India has exceeded it. It's not possible because the prices are so low, the threshold becomes very low and you can easily breach it. So that's why India invoked peace clause. That means India has exceeded this 10%. Okay. Push for permanent solution on stockholding shields India from WTO dispute action. Okay. Because India follows this MSP framework and there is price stabilization, other price stabilization schemes. Okay. So that's why Atmanirbharta Pulses mission, we need to boost a farmer's income. So it's important for us to give subsidies to farmers and we cannot follow this 10% rule, which India finds very unfair. But still there is a respite for countries like India, which is called this peace clause, which India can say is like a way of saying, sorry, I have breached the mark. Okay. Mission Mausam, the next news, which has been initiated by the Ministry of Earth Sciences. It's a weather forecasting scheme, not scheme, portal, or using satellites, radars and other AI-enabled systems. Okay, weather forecasting models you use. So the recent context is India has significantly expanded its Doppler weather radar network under Mission Mausam. Doppler effect is an effect which is related to the change in the frequencies of waves. So whatever is causing that wave and you are an observer who is studying the wave frequency, if that object which is creating waves is moving away from you or towards you, there will be change in the frequency. And this phenomenon is used to to predict weather phenomena. For example, if there is rainfall or changes in wind speeds, you'll send radio waves using, you're trying to use Doppler effect. Okay, you're using this Doppler phenomenon to study weather patterns. So you're going to send radio waves. The radio waves will hit the target and come back, be it wind, be it rainfall or precipitation. Then by measuring the changes in the frequency, you will see whether wind is approaching or going away, or what is the wind speed. Okay, so it's very essential in weather forecasting, and it is used under mission Mausam. You just need to know what is mission Mausam. It's a weather forecasting model used by Ministry of Earth Sciences to modernize weather forecasting and make India weather ready and climate smart. And it is very important, sorry, it is led by 3 different institutions: IMD, which is your Indian Meteorological Department, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, IITM, and National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. Okay, you can pause the video and memorize the names. Then Vikram VT-21, this is a moving vehicle, just like you must have seen wheels, below that a belt. Okay, so this advanced combat vehicle is going to help transfer troops. It can also be used as a platform to launch missiles. Okay, and it's very advanced in nature because of its advanced electronics that is used. There are many important sensors which can study the battleground. Okay, and most importantly, it uses 65% indigenization. That means it's made in India. 65% made in India. Okay, it's developed by DRDO, a modular combat vehicle. Modular means it's multi-purpose. It can be used to launch vehicles, transport troops, or do RECO. That means study the battleground. Boasting advanced amphibious capabilities. So Vikram VT-21, it may be asked in the prelims, what is it? A missile? No. A submarine? No. It is actually an infantry combat vehicle. Okay, indigenously built. Infantry means for Indian Army. Naval anti-ship missile, short range, or NASM-SR. Again, this is an anti-ship missile. Okay, and it can salvo launch. That means it can send multiple missiles can be fired from this, and most of the missiles will remain undetected by radar. Okay, that means enemy cannot detect the presence of this naval missile system. Okay, developed by DRDO again. So 2 related news, and it's for Indian Navy. The Vikram thing was for Indian Army. It's an infantry combat vehicle. This one is a missile which can go for, using which we can go for salvo launch. That means multiple fires can be made using this system, and most of them are short range. Okay, that means some 15 to 20 kilometers maximum, or 10 to 15, and sea skimming. So because Navy is going to use, so this is the ocean surface, it will almost go parallel to this ocean surface, very difficult to detect. Okay, an anti-ship missile designed for helicopter based deployment. That means if there is this naval ship, helicopters can take off from here and they can also launch this. So it's flexible, it can be used using helicopters also. Airlines cite extreme financial stress. So this is something very concerning. All the 3 major airlines, Air India, Indigo, and SpiceJet, and the reason is the rising fuel cost, which is called aviation turbine fuel. Okay, and aviation turbine fuel is ultimately a petroleum derived fuel. And you know what is happening in Hormuz, because of which there has been a rise in the ATF price, because now we are not following the same route, we are bypassing Strait of Hormuz, and also production cost has increased. So everything is adding up to this net, or the final price that the airlines have to pay. And ATF actually forms nearly 55 to 65% of the total operational cost. And if the price rises, the profit will come down. They're already making losses. So, and you know, ATF is also high because of this additional excise duty. There is no GST on it, and excise duty is more distorting. Okay, so many of them want to get rid of that excise duty, some 11 to 12%. Okay, because ultimately they'll pass it on to customers, and if the air tickets price rise, people will stop taking flights. Okay, so risk of shutdown or operational disruption, it is so grave. Many of them may also have to take this drastic measure or step of shutting down, and demand to include ATF under GST, because GST is a more rational framework, unlike the excise duty, which is more troublesome for the companies. Okay, because there is this scope of input tax credit, and there is no such provision in excise duty case. Okay, so that is what the airlines demand. SEBI operationalizes PARVA. Please ignore this abbreviation. This is not the correct abbreviation. Okay, I browsed on the internet. The correct abbreviation is Past Risk and Return Verification Agency. The name is very revealing. This is a platform or portal which verifies the claims of many, investment gurus. They say कि last year this company made this much profit, the share prices rose, and you should feel free to invest in these stocks and all that. So sometimes there can be misinformation or misleading information. Okay, so to verify that, SEBI has come up with PARVA, so that investors can take wise decisions based on, they can make informed choices based on valid or proven information. Okay, and past risk and return, कौन से stocks कितना return दिया and how much risky particular stock is. Okay, so that this is a different thing. So SEBI has operationalized this. This is the expansion, and the portal aims to give true information to investors or market participants. That's it. So now today's News Today has come to an end. So try to subscribe to Visionize Digital Current Affairs to enrich your current affairs knowledge. And now 6 questions will flash on your screen. Do take them. Wish you all the very best.